Juanita, and then
Where is volume 2 and
it's sitting at the back of the room.
and how does Booker T fit into the myth?
Well, the second book is not totally like this. The way George was talking about history in high school. The way I got history in high school, there was a Civil War in relation to black people. There was a Civil War, and then there was the Harlem Renaissance. And what happened to black people in that period, and it was kind of thought of as the age of Booker T. So I look at characters like Booker T and obviously Du Bois, William Trotter, Jack Johnson, George Washington Carver, and all of these brothers, all these black men found ways in this very strict time in American history to somehow rise to the top. And so that's what I'm interested in the second book. How was each of them able to be who they were when the whole separate but equal thing, Jim Crow had his grip, his talons around everybody's throat. So that's that's what it's more character based in that book than kind of history based in this one. Yes, ma'am.
Well, first, how many books are there?
I think 2 is going to be it.
My other question is that the line about the bo-peep-less sheep, is it over-reading that? My students are here, and we're going to be reading Du Bois' Quest of the Silver Fleece, which, it's cotton and it's game, and it's based on the golden fleece, Jason's quest. Can we, as my class, can we see that as a reflection? Is that over-reading?
Probably. I mean, Du Bois, and if there were a third book, it would be about Du Bois. He's an extremely interesting character in how often in flux he was. I mean, he really is. You can really see growth and forward progress in him, starting from where he began, in this very ivory tower kind of thing. All he wanted to do was to teach, to research and teach. And somehow, by the end of his life, he had become this symbol of radicalism. And I think he didn't really want that to happen, but it's how history makes individuals sometimes. Parallel with Malcolm. Martin Luther King, none of these men started out to be where they ended up, but circumstances in the moment drags them on. So he is constantly contradicting himself. I mean, that's the thing that interests me about Du Bois. You could be his friend one day, and then by Thursday, you would kick to the curb, and he was moving as he saw other versions of reality, other versions of possibility.
And can we also see the economic significance of sort of the symbolism of fleece and the Northerners who cotton and the fabric industry and the new movement, the new labor?
Big money, it says, big money is in control of that. And they just kind of waited for them. I mean, they kicked South's ass, and, colloquially or whatever, and then just kind of waited until it got. And so that's why you had factories able to move from the north into the south, because there were no unions there, because people needed jobs, and there was this whole kind of mentality that was bred into these frontier folk, that kind of notion. So it's often about following money.
It's also reminiscent of Milton's Lycidas, the line about the blind sheep. I find that phrase fascinating.
That's what a scholar does. Some bozo like me just got to put some rhymes together. Last question.
In answer to this question, that this book, this form, allows you to do something different than the other forms that you've worked in. I'm wondering not necessarily what that difference is, but if you could just sort of explain that a little bit further.
Yeah, again, have always been a playwright. That's where the bulk of my energy went. And in an attempt to kind of, and I did poetry, and I've done prose, but again, there were these voices that I couldn't use in language that I couldn't use, in images that I couldn't use within the kind of boxes of the other writing that I did. So I can be more long form here. It's difficult for me to find sections of this to read from, because in drama, I'm always about this moment leading to the next moment within this kind of narrow context. But there's a larger arc here that I'm usually able to work with. There's language here. I could play Shakespeare almost in terms of images and associations, et cetera, et cetera. And it's difficult to find ways that I can use those voices in other work. Because at the base, I'm just a writer. That's all I want to do. And the more I write, the less I think in terms of genres. So it's like the elephant in the bed, and everything kind of rolls to the center, and that's kind of where my work is going. Not that anybody cares.
Yes, go ahead. One last
I'm sorry.
Could you speak to the capacity for people that are on the perimeter of society, always to bring a new vision that would have become mundane and acceptable for ordinary, and bring new rhythm and factor for people's economy?
Right.
Because we have done dance, like Alvin Ailey,
right.
Do the things we've done with jazz, bring a new insight to what other cultures have accepted. Supposed to be like this. Not always got to be like this.
Right. And I mean, I made that point that, you know, it always comes from the outside. But the thing with the outsider is, and that is so dangerous about the outsider, is that they believe in what this country says it's about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, all of the stuff, you know, being created equal and all that, these people believe that because they have to believe it, and it's seen in terms of irony in one way, but it's also seen as the possibility for their salvation. And that's what it seems to be the core of the energy, that I have this energy and I have to do this stuff, trying to express myself, so that you will know that I'm as human as you are. And so that's where you get this not only contradiction, but the energy that makes everybody else look at that and say, well, I want some of that too. How can I touch it? It has to be diluted somewhat, because I can't stand it in its fullest form. But let it, you know, give this energy to a white boy and let Elvis shake, rattle, and roll, so that I can deal with it rather than let James Brown and just, you know, so I'll never sleep again. So that's the thing that I'm really talking about in terms of performance and all of that, and what African Americans bring to this and put in this bucket.
Short, so that you can have time to go and buy the book, since you have been introduced so provocatively to it. And I think you join me in thanking Professor Harris for exceptionally interesting talk. And I would invite you to come tomorrow to the Humanity Center's conference room in Fab to hear our English colleague James J. Brown talk about If Then Else, Software, Procedural Rhetoric, and the Obama Campaign. So it's a continued conversation. Thank you all.